So, the European Union has just dropped a massive new rulebook for artificial intelligence. It's called the AI Act, and it is a total game changer. But, like with any new game, the very first question is pretty simple. Who actually has to play? In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly who's in, who's out, and what this all really means for the future of AI.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on the rulebook itself. Then we'll meet the players, who this law actually targets. After that, we're going to look at the sidelines to figure out the major exceptions. Then we'll zoom right in on the really high-stakes stuff, high-risk AI. We'll even pull back the curtain on how these rules got made. Before we get to the most important part, what does all this mean for you?
Okay, let's dive right in. First up, defining the AI rulebook. This isn't just about a list of rules. It's about drawing the lines on a brand new playing field for technology.
So this is the big question, right? Who actually has to follow the rules of this new game? It sounds simple, but the answer has a few layers to it.
The easiest way to think about the AI Act's scope is just like a rulebook. And the most important part is Article 2. It's basically the first chapter, and it tells you everything you need to know. Who's on the field, what's in bounds, and what's out of bounds.
So, let's talk about those players. Who's actually on the field? This section breaks down exactly who this law applies to.
And this is where the law gets really ambitious. See, it doesn't just go after the companies building the AI, what it calls the providers. Nope, it covers the entire value chain. That includes the deployers, who actually use the AI, the importers, the distributors. Even a car company that sticks an AI chip in its dashboard is on the hook. And, maybe most importantly, it gives rights to affected persons. Yep, that's us, the people whose lives are impacted by these systems.
Okay, so when do these rules actually kick in? Well, it comes down to two key moments, or triggers. Placing on the market. That's the very first time an AI system is made available in the EU. Think of it appearing in an app store. Then there's putting into service. That's the first time a company actually uses that AI for what it was built for, like screening job applications. It's a subtle difference, but it's super important for pinning down responsibility.
All right, so the rules are really broad, but they're not infinite. There are limits. And this next section is all about the major exemptions, everything that the law considers out of bounds.
This slide lays out the boundaries perfectly. On one side, you've got the stuff that's definitely regulated, AI that decides if you get a job, a loan, or AI inside a medical device. But look at the other side. There are some really clear carve-outs. AI used only for military and national security, that's out. Pure R&D to encourage innovation, also exempt. And hey, if you're just playing around with an AI tool for a personal hobby, don't worry, you're in the clear.
But, and this is a huge but, that R&D exemption has a massive catch. The law is crystal clear on this point. Testing in real-world conditions shall not be covered by that exclusion. What does that mean? It means the second a developer takes their experimental AI and starts testing it on the public, boom, the rules kick in. It's a really critical safeguard.
Okay, now we are getting to the absolute heart of the AI Act, its focus on high-risk AI. See, this law isn't a one-size-fits-all hammer. It saves its strictest, toughest rules for the areas where AI could potentially cause the most harm.
So how do you actually figure out if an AI system is high risk? Well, it's basically a three-step checklist. Step 1, is it even an AI system to begin with? Step 2, does one of those big exemptions apply, like for military use? And if the answer is no, you move to Step 3. Is its main purpose listed in this special part of the law called Annex III? That's where you find things like biometrics, law enforcement, and employment.
And here's where it gets really interesting. There's a little twist, a sort of exception to the exception. Even if an AI system is in a high-risk category, its developer can argue that it's not, but only if they can prove it poses no significant risk to our health, safety, or fundamental rights. It's like an escape hatch, but the key thing is the burden of proof is totally on them. It's a great example of the Act's trying to be both strict and flexible at the same time.
Now, you might think these rules just appeared out of thin air, but that couldn't be further from the truth. So let's pull back the curtain for a minute and see how they actually evolved. This is where you see how the sausage gets made.
This whole journey started way back in 2021 with the first proposal. And from there, it went through years of intense debates, changes, amendments from different committees, all of it leading up to the final text that was adopted in 2024. And if you want a perfect example of this whole process, just look at the debate over open source AI. It's fascinating. You can literally see the rule get pulled one way, then snap back the other. At first, open source was basically exempt. Then Parliament pulled it into the Act's scope. But in the end, they landed on a compromise. Open source AI is exempt, unless it's being used for something high risk or something that's flat out prohibited. It's a great window into the tightrope walk they had to do between encouraging innovation and ensuring safety.
Okay, so after all that, what's the bottom line? Let's wrap this all up with the key takeaways, what this really means for you.
So here's what you really need to remember. First, the AI Act is incredibly broad. It covers the entire supply chain. Second, there are important exemptions for things like the military and pure R&D. Third, the real bullseye of this law is on high-risk systems, and there's a clear process for figuring out what that means. And finally, remember that these rules weren't just made up. They're the result of years of debate and compromise.
So, there you have it. The AI rulebook is written. The boundaries are set. The game is about to begin. But the biggest question of all is still unanswered. Will it actually create a fair game for everyone? That's the real test, and it's only just getting started.